if we don't hold on to it, it flows. If we don't hold on to the thought, if we don't hold on to the feeling and turn it into an emotion, if we don't apply that kind of pressure, that kind of prison around it, around what we feel and what we think, around experience, it tends to flow. And when it tends to flow, we are almost in our naturalness. Because really, it's not the things that happen to us, and it's not really the thoughts that we think, and it's not the feelings that arise. It's how we hold on to them. And we have held on to them, particularly the painful ones in the past, and we've held on to them and onto them and onto them, and they become solidified. They become solidified into us. I'm this because of this. And then thought follows. Thought is repetitive. Most thought is a repetition. Most thoughts, the troublesome ones usually, are on rotation. It's like there's a DJ somewhere spinning the endless playlist. If you can recognize that the thoughts that you have in times of trouble are almost really the same thoughts that happened either yesterday or last week or whenever it was in the past, they're the same ones. Maybe we imagine or hope, without realizing it, that if we meet the thought enough times, even without any progress or wisdom or depth or deeper understanding, but maybe if we just meet the thought, the bogeyman, the ghost, enough times, somehow we'll either defeat it or it'll dissolve. It's our holding on to and defining it and defining ourselves as those things that trap them, not them themselves. And so the invitation would always be to let things be, to let things flow, to allow it to just be that way, without fixating and without grabbing, and to see if it's possible to stay in a state of openness with it. Without that openness, being a thing, a force. Imagine having the capacity and the willingness to just allow things to flow through you. In a good way, I mean. Not in a kind of I don't care about things, because obviously that would be absurd. But to have the capacity to be open enough to allow things to come and things to go. To get out of the way. Are we in our own way? Mostly, aren't we? So to allow things to flow. And that means really allowing things to flow, to be the river, and to be the flow of the river, and to be the vast ocean. And so to allow this movement, it's like a return to naturalness, to not fixate on having to do something about everything. Because there is a time and a place, there is a season for all things. There is a time for resting and seeing, and there is a time for action and doing. There is a time for all things, And wisdom is the ability to know what to do, when, to follow the calling, to follow the pull, to follow the movement. And so that sometimes, in fact most times, because we've swung the other way so much, that now consciously to just hang out and allow things to flow. And what are these things that need to flow? Well, again, is it a thought? Tyrannized by thought. Most thought would demand an action. Thought demands action. Unless we're contemplating or reading or really consciously sitting down and thinking about something. I'm going to think about this for a while and see if I can explore it a bit within. But most thought isn't like that. Most habitual thought that's going around unanalyzed within us is like demand for action. You should do this, you should do that, you shouldn't have done this, you shouldn't have done that. Sort of needling away at us. Thought is a really worthy thing of examination. Not in a neurotic way, but to see within yourself the nature of thought and how powerful it is. To see the nature of thought and how strong and how powerful and how dominating and how controlling it is. And when we're completely glued to it, then we follow it around like a slave, like a dog, not seeing that some thoughts don't require anything. From the eye that sees, to see the thought, acknowledge it, allow it. It flows, because thought is just a part of the river, a bubbling up of a particular bit in a river. It bubbles up, and then we think, oh, that's more important than anything. It just bubbles up, and if you see it, acknowledge it. Great thought, terrible thought, and it bubbles down again, and there we are, still in the river, still as the river. There's something to be said for this. There's something to be said for allowing things to flow by not fixating on them so much, because it does something to us over time. It relaxes the muscle of attachment. It relaxes the muscle of allegiance to thought. It's like a living meditation, the living meditation of allowing the flow of thought and feeling. That's a living meditation. In fact, that's the purpose of this video, is to get to that point. I didn't really know what this video was about when I started it, and now I know. It's to speak to and point to the living daily meditation of allowing things to rise and fall and to flow in a natural way, so that we're coming back into a naturalness and not, jumping all the time with the fixer mentality, or the complete devotion and allegiance to the thought mentality. So that's it, the living meditation of allowing everything to flow.